Hello everybody and welcome to my race recap of Hell of the West in Gundawindi 2024. Starting with the morning, we woke up at about 4 o'clock, transition opened at about 4:30, got up, got into my white rice that I had for breakfast. Honestly didn't eat as much of that as I would have liked, but as soon as the nerves come in I find it really difficult to eat, so I just ate what I could and then had the Red Bulls, which is a nice thing to sip on when solid food isn't going down as well as you'd like. Even though I was nervous, I was still pretty relaxed and calm. It was nice to have my parents there and went to drop off the bike in the morning. Everything was smooth as possible. I actually found myself quite a nice little spot on the corner of my age group area. Because it is a local race, you don't have your racking position predetermined, so you just get there in the morning and you take whatever space you can find. Got there pretty early, found a good spot, and then went and got ready for the swim. Was there with the Tri-Mob crew, which was really nice. Again, to have people around really helps ease the nerves a little bit. Headed over to the swim start at about 6:05. We were set to go off, so got to the swim start 10-15 minutes beforehand. You do the awkward standing around in line, kind of just checking each other out before you jump in the water. And this was a deep water start, so that awkwardness extends to a little weird paddle out with all of your competitors before you get behind the boys to start. Gun went off as per any deep water and or mass start. It's pretty chaotic the first couple hundred meters. You kind of just fight for position, a few elbows, a few feet getting kicked around, and you kind of just wear it because that's part of the game. Because I wanted to kind of get a good start and get into a good position. About 300 meters into the swim, 400 meters, I think I found some guy's feet that was swimming at a pace that I really liked, and essentially I just did everything I could to stick on his feet. I did kind of poke my nose around to see if there was anyone else around that I could jump on their feet if they were going a little bit quicker, but I decided it was best to just sit on this guy's feet because it is such a game to be had if you are following someone compared to swimming on your own. So through the first kilometer of the swim, I found this guy's feet, following him the whole way along. Got to the turn buoy. I actually feel like I did pretty good in the turn. There wasn't too much traffic around me at the time, which was really good. So got around the turn and jumped back on the same guy's feet. At this point, he was probably not too happy with me being hanging on there for so long, touching his feet every so often. But jumped back on his feet and we kept going along. As soon as we got to about 500 meters to go, I could really tell that he wasn't happy with me being where I was, because he was doing a little bit of zigzagging to try and drop me off a little bit and throwing a big kick in every now and then just to see if he could snap that elastic, of which I felt at that point was losing a little bit of time. And checking over my shoulders, I saw another guy coming up on my shoulder who was swimming a bit faster than the guy in front of me. So with about 500 meters to go, I decided to switch across to following another person, jumped on this other guy's feet, which was a lot smoother at that point, and he was swimming a little bit faster at that time, so I stuck with him as long as I could, and I ended up probably swimming the last maybe 200 meters by myself. It was a kind of a point where you just got to start mentally preparing to get out of the water, get ready to jump on the bike. So jumping out of the water, it's actually quite a long run from the water all the way through to transition and out of transition, and it's not a smooth one either. The roads they're bitumen roads, but they've got quite big gravel rocks in them, and after being in the water for the last 35 minutes your feet are a little bit soft and not ready to roll on such hard surfaces. So jumped out, made the run to transition, kind of bouncing around, nursing my feet as much as I could, and I got to the bike, helmet on. I actually decided not to put my shoes on because it was raining at this point. It was raining quite lightly, but I didn't want to spend too much time just standing around putting on wet socks, particularly for on the bike. If my feet were going to be wet and soggy anyway, I didn't really want that to make the ride any more uncomfortable than it was going to be. I even decided to take my visor off. Once I put my helmet on, I took my visor off because it was raining, and my visibility would have been really bad if I had my visor on when I was on the ride. So ran out of transition. I actually did my best ever mount on the bike, which was really nice. And yes, it was a flying mount. It was slow. I slipped one leg over straight into the shoe, and by the time I was putting pressure on that one, because I was in a harder gear, by the time I was putting pressure on my first foot, I was able to slip my second foot in as smooth as I ever have, and then got going from there. And then a couple of 100 meters later, was able to do the Velcro up, and I was off on the bike. Because the bike was an out and back bike, the first 40K was amazing, honestly. I felt really good, felt like I had diamonds in the legs. I was flying, I was going really quick, and I probably went over what I had wanted to watts-wise for that first 40K, particularly getting out of town and kind of jostling for position on who you're going to come around and where you're eventually going to sit within the competitors that were around you. So found my position, probably a few too many spikes in power, but was feeling really good and was going really fast. Hit the turnaround. I then realized that the whole first 40K, we had this brilliant tailwind. I did the first 40K averaging over 40K an hour, and spirits were sky high. As soon as you turn around, you just get slapped in the face with this headwind and rain to contend with. And I kind of at that point realized that I went out a bit too hard. So I dropped the watts back maybe to about 10 or 12 watts lower than what I had expected. So at this point I was probably doing about 215 to 220. And then kind of was just trying to find a rhythm and get back in as quickly as possible, knowing that my speed would drop quite dramatically with the headwind compared to the tailwind on the way out. At this point, you've jostled for position enough, you're on your own for a lot of it, or there's not much traffic around, and if there is traffic around, they're going at a similar pace to you, so it's a little bit less kind of interesting, I guess is the word, because you're not coming around people, or people aren't coming around you as much. You're kind of just going at the same pace, and you've found your spot in the line, and you're just doing your watts really, and getting home. The most pivotal part of my race came with about 20Ks to go on the bike. I didn't realize it at the time, but I did get a puncture. Thankfully, as I mentioned in my equipment video a few videos ago, I did recently convert to a tubeless setup, which probably saved my race, in all honesty. But what happened was I picked up a puncture in the rear, and the tubeless sealant did seal up the puncture. However, I did lose a lot of pressure in that rear wheel. The way that I noticed it coming over the bumpy roads was I could feel when my rear rim would actually contact with the ground, which didn't feel good at all, and you're kind of in the mode where you can't think about anything else except what power you're putting down, and then if you get some external stimulus coming through your body, you don't really know what to do. So I felt it a couple of times and wasn't sure. I tried to check down to look through my legs or look behind me to see if I could see that the tire was flat. It didn't look super flat, but I could definitely feel that something was wrong. So I just kept going. I really felt the speed drop, and those last 20Ks, it was really just a matter of gritting my teeth and pushing as hard as I could to hold a decent pace. Lots and lots of people passed, well, I say lots and lots, a considerable number of people, not a ridiculous amount, but quite a few people past me in those last 20Ks, which was quite demoralizing. And honestly, I lost my head thinking that my race was over and that everyone in my age group had got past me and I'd come in and I wasn't going to be in contention at all. So yeah, it wasn't good for the noggin having that feeling. And reflecting on it now, being a few days later, I probably should have stopped and just put some CO2 to top up that rear wheel. It would have saved me some time in that last 20K, because I did have a look at the speed numbers and things like that, and I might have lost from about 4 to 6 minutes in that last 20K, just because I was dragging so much more with that punctured rear wheel. And I probably could have got that back if I hopped off the bike immediately, put some CO2 in that rear wheel to fill it up, and then kept going. I could have maybe made some of that time back, but again, hindsight's 20/20, and I can't really do anything about it. And I guess it's one of those things that I'll just have to consider next time, because I've never actually punctured in a race before, which is lucky, and touch wood, I won't puncture again in a race anytime soon. So that tubeless saved me in one way, but if I had got a complete flat, I would have stopped and addressed it, which, yeah, may or may not have been worth the time. So it's one of those things that it could have helped or it could have hindered. So I might be in exactly the same position I was anyway, coming off the bike. So coming in off the bike after those ups and downs, a bit of a roller coaster last 20K, was down in the dumps a little bit, but came into T2, socks on because I didn't want to get blisters, shoes on, and started the run out of T2, kind of thinking that I was well behind the pace and I wasn't in any position to be contending for podium or anything like that in my age group. Anyway, I got out of T2 and I saw my dad, who was giving me splits, and he said I was first off the bike in my age group with a minute lead on the person who was chasing me in second at that time. So I then thought, oh well, I mustn't have done as bad as I thought, so it's time to get going. Hit the run pretty hard. I ran, first couple of Ks out of T2, at least for me, is always quicker than what I expect or what I want, but ran those first from K3 to K, honestly, from K3 to K15 or 12, really well. I was holding a pace that I hadn't run before in a race, so I was running 3:30, 3:35s that whole time. Looking down at my watch, I wasn't worried about anything else except for holding that 3:30, 3:35. I had my flask, which was the only nutrition I took on. I didn't take on any other nutrition, didn't even take water at the aid stations because it was cool and I didn't feel the need for that much water. So hit the run pretty hard. First 2 laps were good, and then the third lap, the start of the third lap, I saw my dad again, and then he said I was in 5th place with a few minutes, 4 minutes I think he said, to first. Again, I had a bit of a defeated moment in my head. It was just flashback to the bike of me like, oh no, I'm well out of this race. What am I going to do? Drop my head maybe for 500 meters or so, and then I just thought back to myself, I can only run what I can run. I'll get my time that I want to get, and then be able to take it from there. But yeah, drop the pace for maybe 500 meters or so, and then I kind of just kicked myself up the butt and said, all right, get going. You can only do what you can do. Ran my pace. There's a first little couple of Ks of the loop. There's a bit of an out and back. And on the way back, my dad met back up with me and he said, actually, sorry, I messed up. There's only one person in front of me, and I think they were a minute in the last lap ahead of me at the time. So again, that put a bit more fire in me. Again, deja vu to me coming out of T2. It was a bit of a roller coaster of ups and downs, the last half of the race. But that last lap, I really just didn't look down at my watch, just ran as hard as I could. Coming in around the last K or last 500 meters or so, I was even checking over my shoulder to make sure no one was going to pass me. Coming down the finish chute, I was super excited because there'd been so many ups and downs. To hear the announcer say that I was second in my age group, came across the line, a little bit of a fist bump, but not too much carry on, because yeah, it was kind of just one of those ones where you feel good to get the day done after all those kind of mental ups and downs. So yeah, that was my race done. So like I said, came across second place in my age group for the Hell of the West Triathlon, but the race wasn't just that. It was also the Queensland State Championships for long course races. And the reason I'm filming this a few days later is because there's been a bit of back and forth with me and Triathlon Australia. There were some clerical errors that I made, and the admin on their side didn't have the right information. Anyway, it's all sorted out now. It turns out that I did win the Queensland State Championships for my age group, even though I came second in the race. So that was a bonus, and it was a nice little pickup after all the ups and downs, and coming in second, and possibly the puncture being playing a factor in that. So yeah, that was just a nice little pickup a few days after the race to kind of have that validated, but I would have liked to be on the top step, and we'll try and get back there next year. Thanks for watching along for my race recap of the Hell of the West Triathlon in Goondiwindi for 2024. If you have any other ideas for other videos, or if you have any questions about the whole weekend or anything that I've talked about in this race week video series, let me know down below and I'll get to you. But stay tuned, there'll be some more videos coming soon. Thanks.